Alrighty, my name's Holden, and for the topic I chose to kind of cross-analyze two different pieces that we worked on in my English 201 class. So first off, one of the topics that I chose to cross-analyze was The Death of the Author, which is a piece by Roland Barthes. And this is a timeless piece that kind of discusses both authorship and reader's role. Barth shares that messages and themes do not derive from the author's intentions, and rather they're interpreted from the reader. And so this kind of goes against the typical delivery progression, which goes, writer, sender, then the actual writing or message, and then received through the reader. And this theory allows for all literary messages to pretty much mean anything under one circumstance, and that is that it has to be arguable with evidence and analysis. And the other thing that I chose to cross-analyze was just films. And towards the latter half of our year, we actually went in depth with two Wes Anderson films, one of which I chose, which we're going to be seeing here in a second. But how are films pretty much literature? And they're very similar to written literature as directors use literary devices in their films. You might see symbolism, irony, metaphor, paradox, allusion, intertextuality, all of these, writing devices that we see commonly in essays and books are also used in film. On top of this, there is another layer, though, where directors practice something called mise en scène. And what that is pretty much everything that you see in an image. So, why is the light right there? Why are the characters, where they are, where they're placed? Why is the camera shooting from that angle? And a couple more right there, editing, shot type, and all of these devices combined can be analyzed to help discover the author's intended message. However, more importantly, create our own meanings. So let's combine the two elements, and we're going to take a look at this clip here in a second. But by understanding the literary theory, the death of the author, and grasping how films are considered literature, we can combine the two and make interpretations and inferences of our own. And I'm not going to give you any context or about the story, the film, or anything. Just analyze and examine this clip as if you were reading a super intricate poem where you're analyzing things such as color, lighting, shot composition, symbolism, anything that you pick up on, because at the end of the day, it's all based on your own interpreted message.
Acting dumb, that's what you come to expect. Swearing your clothes, head down to toes, a reaction to say you know what he did, but you idiot kid, you don't have a clue. Sometimes they just get caught in the eye and pulling it through.
So without any analyzation, we can clearly see that the scene was, pretty depressing and sad scene. But besides that, there's more that we can get just from that, 2-minute clip that wasn't explicitly shown. So if we just take a look at the colorway, based off of our literary knowledge of symbolism, we kind of can correlate blue with tranquility and sadness. And it's just one of those kind of interesting paradoxes that our director uses, just because you have blue, which means tranquil, and sad, which are kind of opposing effects both in the scene, but it tells us more, especially when we look at the shot composition, in which Wes Anderson has a very strong emphasis on symmetry. And so you can see that our character was centered most of the time. From this, we can go ahead and kind of grasp that our character is methodical, stable. He's not very rash person. And so that, again, kind of contradicts that suicide topic. Continuing, just look at his appearance change, right? I mean, not only is this the first time that we're actually seeing his eyes in the entire film, but his entire appearance is changing, kind of symbolizing what's happening in his life and his own personal metamorphosis. And then this is another small detail, but if you take a look kind of in the background, it's not very pretty. It's kind of just bland, empty, and ugly. And that's, again, a further comment on kind of the headspace that he's in. And even without knowing either of these two and the significance of these two, things in the film, it was a flashback scene. And we know that, birds and flying typically symbolize freedom. And, that's what he was trying to achieve through committing suicide. And based off of this blonde woman right here, we can again kind of assume that she is one of the reasons and motives for him choosing to do it that way. And again, there is no rule book to follow when creating or analyzing pieces of literature. And that's really what Roland Barthes is pushing in his piece of The Death of the Author. Wes Anderson could have made that shot blue because that was his favorite color. And it's up to the reader in order to kind of interpret things on our own to support a working thesis and an argument. Maybe you think the repetitive shot symmetry comments on escaping daily routine and breaking boundaries. As long as you can argue that, it works. And the important thing is that there is a message for everyone, and these literary devices and filmmaking techniques help push our own individual understanding into something that, again, we can argue and prove to our peers under a working thesis. Questions?
Actually, a question. So the interpretation that you presented, is that your own interpretation?
Those are my own interpretations, yeah. But again, like, you could have interpreted that scene entirely differently.
And were the interpretations like just based on the scene, or had you like watched the whole movie and then kind of made it based on that?
Just purely based on that scene.
Okay.
I had watched the film prior, and there are scenes in the film where those analyzations don't really work. However, as long as you can, again, pick out parts where that does work and create something from nothing, essentially, is what Roland Barthes kind of pushes.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that film? Or
that film we actually analyzed in class. So I know there are a couple more presentations that bring that up. And then I chose that specific scene. I know it was a little dark, but just because of the variety of filmmaking techniques and mise en scène that were there, you had the lighting, shot composition, montage, editing, just things like that.
So I saw, good job, Holden. That was very thorough and thoughtful. I like the way that you were able to combine Barthes' concept of the death of the author and then apply it to the interpretation of that particular scene. In that scene, in the back, in the setting, on the right-hand side, we see a door. And then on the left-hand side, it's not just a standard perpendicular wall, but we can also see that it has a slanted ceiling. So it to me created a space where on the one side, it felt like maybe the walls were closing in, but there was always this option to like walk out the door.
Right. And my interpretation of that You know, you have that slant, which is very
Yeah.
German expressionistic and kind of, you know, helps push that, you know, very dark kind of energy and like you said, closing in. And I also agree with the door, and I really like that interpretation that you made.
I also thought it was really interesting because like there is that light blue color,
Mhm.
but it's never really touching the actor. Like it's never really touching the character. Like,
Right.
he's in the dark and he can't be
Right.
like touched by that light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have one. Oh, yeah.
But so I'm guessing from the start, maybe that character went for a long run or something. Because
Like the jersey and the.
yeah, because I'm noticing
sweatpants.
He
Yeah, a lot of
actually,
hair on it.
he's actually a professional tennis player that's kind of stuck again in his past, wearing all of his professional tennis attire, even though he hasn't competed in years. So watching the whole film, that could have definitely been something to, you know, interpret that he's still wearing his clothes, even though his last match was, you know, 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.